Alright, so this is beef and green peppers in black bean sauce. Right, what are black beans? Black beans usually, or used to back in the day, come in packets like this, salted black beans, and they were just salted loose black beans in a bag, and you could also buy them in jars and ceramic pots as well. I usually buy them in this form myself and just take them out, take out a few at a time and soak them, drain them, soak them again, and then they're ready for use. Another way of doing it, and an easy way, and the way I'm going to use today, is to use a ready-made black bean sauce, and they're ready available, usually in jars, something like this, from Asian stores. Likewise with these black beans, you can order them online, or you can get them from your local Asian stores. Right, other ingredients. For the beef, I use steak. You don't need huge amounts for this, and this one steak will do two of us as a dish, and I'll be doing another dish to go alongside it, because that's kind of how we do eating in Chinese food, and in Cantonese food it's generally more than one dish is served. So I've got a nice piece of rump steak here. Rump steak has a fabulous flavour, and it really lends itself well to this particular dish. You can also use sirloin, which is rather good, and if you're feeling rich, get some fillet steak. But today I'm using this rather nice 21-day matured rump steak, and that's British beef. I've also got a couple of 3 cloves of garlic. I like this one to be rather garlicky, and it rather suits this dish to have a fair bit of garlic. That's probably quite a lot of garlic for this dish. It would be those 3 cloves. Half an onion. I'm using the 2 green peppers, one of which I've just used the bottom of. The black bean sauce, I'm going to need some corn flour to thicken it with. So it's a fairly simple dish. So I need to get this all chopped up and ready to stir fry. Alright, that's all my vegetables chopped up. I'm just going to show you the technique with the meat, but first of all I'll show you the size. I'm chopping these up. The onion around about that size, they'll fall apart into individual pieces like that, and likewise the peppers, kind of big chunks. One thing I might have not mentioned before was the spur chilli, and I'm using a red spur chilli that contrasts nicely with the colour of the green. And I've chopped the garlic up into fairly large pieces. That suits this dish rather well. The beef, I'm just going to trim off the worst of the fat and connective tissue from the outside of that, because it doesn't really lend itself very well to the technique I'm using now. And that is, I put the blade down on this because it's a steak, and what I do is I draw the knife across it rather like that to take it off in slices like that. So the knife goes onto it and then tilts, and then I cut through it like that, and that helps to get the meat at the right texture for stir frying, and then it'll be nice and tender, which is good. I always find that rump steak is, perhaps of all the steaks, it has the most intrinsic flavour of its own. It has the best flavour of all the steaks. It is slightly tougher, but when you cut it up like this, it makes it a really nice steak to use in this particular dish, and similar with sirloin as well, which is a little more tender. Alright, so what I've done is I've mixed two heaped teaspoons of cornstarch with a little water, and I've taken out about 2 dessert spoons of the black bean sauce. If you're using dried black beans, if you rinse them in water, soak them in water, rinse that water off, soak them in water again, and rinse that off, and then chop them up into fine pieces until you end up with around about this amount. So it's about the size of a heaped tablespoon of it, which will go perfect with this dish. It's a very, very strong flavoured sauce. You don't want it to overpower your dish at all. Alright, because Chinese food isn't about having, certainly Cantonese food is not about having things overpowering flavours of any kind. There's always a subtlety in texture, in flavour. This dish is nice and salty because it uses the salted black beans, and it uses the crunch and texture of the vegetables. One little trick I like to use with the beef is I like to get that in with the garlic, or some of the garlic, and I'm going to need a little bit of soy sauce in that. So I'm just going to put a little splash of light soy sauce in there and get down and dirty with my fingers, get that worked in. And another little thing I like to use at this point, I don't know how authentic it is, but I like to use some black pepper in that, so I'll just put a squirt of black pepper into it. There we go, just a few turns. I really like black pepper in beef, it works. I like black pepper with anything. It's even rather nice with strawberries because it brings out the sweetness of them. Black pepper and mint on your strawberries, trust me on that one, folks. Right, another thing I'll do with that probably is put in a teaspoon of corn flour just to protect the texture, so I'll do that now. And I work that in, and that'll help protect the texture of the meat. Alright, I'm going to switch angle now so that you can see my my fry pan, which is doubling as a wok. While that's heating up, we'll talk about wok tools. When you're actually using a wok, and a Cantonese wok generally has a handle, I'll show you. Just to show you that I actually do own a wok, and this is a nice Cantonese wok with a handle, which is very useful for using on gas. I don't particularly find this wok very useful on this particular type of stove, even though it does have a flat bottom there. I really just don't get on with it at all, so I tend to use this one for stir frying dishes. In addition to that, if you are using a wok, you're probably better off investing in some Chinese tools, this is the very useful one. It's a wok chan, and it's very useful for stir frying. This one is also can be used for stir frying. In fact, if you look in a lot of Chinese takeaways, you'll see the chefs using these because they're useful for picking up various sauces and assembling dishes, so that they just about do everything with this one tool. And that I would call a Chinese ladle. I don't know what the Chinese name for that tool is, but there you go. I like these two with stainless steel ones. They generally come with wooden handles, but I find them a little bit cumbersome, they keep falling off. Alright, so there you go. Alright, I generally like to cook stir-fry dishes, Chinese stir-fry dishes and Thai stir-fry dishes using peanut oil, but I've run out, so I'm going to have to make do with my sunflower oil. Perfectly good for the job. It just burns a little more easy, so you just have to be a little more careful. So a little bit of that in there. Don't use too much. We don't want to make the dish too oily. And straight in with your beef. Get all the good stuff out of there. And get that spread out and moving about. Because this is a Cantonese style dish, a Chinese dish, what happens is all the work is in the prep, and the actual cooking only takes a few minutes or seconds. So here we are. That's starting to brown up already. You need to get your pan very hot indeed. The stir fry technique relies on the pan being exceedingly hot. The bits you see catching on the bottom now, that's the corn flour coming off the meat and protecting the texture of the meat. Right, into that everything else is going to go. So onions and your peppers. Get those in there, and also your spur chili, your red chili or your pimento. I think those are Egyptian, those red ones, those red spur chilies. They're very nice, whatever they are. They've got a lovely flavour and they're not too terribly hot. In this dish I'm using them more for colour than anything else really. And get that moving around and stir frying. Very quickly this cooks. Right, now it's actually starting to catch and burn on the bottom. I'm just going to add a little bit of water to that. And then that starts to deglaze the pan at the bottom. Right now I can go in. First of all, I'm just going to put in 2 spoons of that just to see how it works out. Oh, that lovely familiar smell of the black bean sauce now. Fabulous, love it. Very nice indeed. I think that's going to be enough for the black bean sauce. So I used 2 heaping teaspoons of black bean sauce for that amount of steak. There you go. It's always better to play these things by eye and go by appearance. I don't want anything to overpower this wonderful dish. Again, in with some more water. I like lots of sauce with this because that sauce is delicious, and I recommend you serving this only with a plain steamed rice. And the reason for that is contrast really. This is a really dark, salty kind of dish in a wonderful sauce. And it contrasts very, very nicely with plain white steamed rice. I know fried rice is eaten an awful lot in the UK, but I didn't really see fried rice eaten a lot when I was in Hong Kong, and if I did, it was generally as a breakfast item. They called it chow fan. Right, chow fan literally means fried rice. Right, I'm going to pour in a little of about half of my mixture and see how that thickens up. That's looking good. Now I'm just going to allow that to stew a little bit longer now to take some of the crunch out of the vegetable, but not too much. You know, you still want to have that lovely crunch, vegetable crunch, that's signature in Cantonese food. I love it. So I just let that steam away, cook away for a while, and let that reduce a little bit. Now it's time for a taste. Let's get a taste on that. Oh mama. Oh, I know why they call that flavour umami now, because it's like mama. Super. That dish is ready right now. nice and crunchy vegetables, delicious sauce, and that wonderful beef. That's going to be a treat, and I'll show you that served up in a minute. So there it is, beef and green peppers in black bean sauce, served with plain steamed rice. Thanks for watching. If you have enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you would like to follow my channel, please subscribe and be sure to click the bell icon to receive notification of all my upcoming videos. Thanks for watching.